Shalom, continuing now with Psalm 36. For the leader of the servant of the Lord of David. I know what transgression says to the wicked. He has no sense of the dread of God, because its speech is seductive to him, till his iniquity be found out and he be hated. His words are evil and deceitful. He will not consider doing good. In bed, he plots mischief. He is set on a path of no good. He does not reject evil. O Lord, your faithfulness reaches to heaven, your steadfastness to the sky. Your beneficence is like the high mountains, your justice like the great deep. Man and beast you deliver, O Lord. How precious is your faithful care, O God. Mankind shelters in the shadows of your wings. They feast on the rich fare of your house. You let them drink at your refreshing stream. With you is the fountain of life. By your light do we see light. Bestow your faithful care on those devoted to you, and your beneficence on upright men. Let not the foot of the arrogant tread on me, or the hand of the wicked drive me away. There lie the evildoers fallen, thrust down, unable to rise. I would like to focus primarily on two verses here, verses 6 and 7. Again, they read, O Lord, your faithfulness reaches to heaven, your steadfastness to the sky. Your beneficence is like the high mountains, your justice like the great deep. Man and beast you deliver, O Lord. There are four key terms in this verse that describe God in ways that we would often use to describe qualities in other human beings, qualities that we would try to emulate, qualities that we admire. And those are, in Hebrew, emunah, chesed, tzedek, and mishpat. If I were to retranslate these verses using the translations found in the classic biblical dictionary, which is called the Brown Driver Briggs, usually referred to as BDB, I would retranslate it this way. O Lord, your goodness or kindness reaches to heaven. Your firmness or fidelity reaches to the sky. Your righteousness is like the high mountains, your judgment like the great deep. Four words, chesed, which can mean goodness, kindness, translated in the translation that I read for you, that I use in these psalm recordings, the translation faithfulness, chesed, but it can also mean goodness and kindness. Emunah, translated here as steadfast, but in the BDB dictionary, emunah understood as meaning loyalty or firmness or fidelity, steadfastness. Tzedek, righteousness, translated here as beneficence. And mishpat, judgment, translated here as justice. Four qualities that we attribute to God, that we strive for as human beings in order to live a good, meaningful, and holy kind of life. When my wife and I were married some 38 years ago, already at that point it was customary to include a double ring ceremony in Jewish weddings. And according to the tradition, when the groom, in this case when I presented the ring to my wife and placed it on her finger, I said to her, Hare at mikudeshet li, behold, or with this ring you are consecrated to me. B'taba'at zo kedat Moshe v'Yisrael. According, or as my wife, you are consecrated to me, or betrothed to me as my wife, in accordance with the laws of Moses and the people Israel. At that point, when the bride would present the ring to the groom, she would have the opportunity to choose a verse that would be meaningful to her. There was no prescribed traditional declaration that she had to say, because originally, and in Jewish tradition, the groom presented the bride with a ring, namely an item of value, and would recite that formula of betrothal that I just mentioned to you. But with the double ring ceremony, the bride could select anything that would be meaningful to her. And in our case, my wife selected a verse from the prophet Hosea, chapter 2, verse 21. And I will espouse you forever. I will espouse you with righteousness and justice, and with goodness and mercy, and I will espouse you with faithfulness. That declaration of espousal or betrothal that is mentioned in Hosea in its original context was coming out of the prophet's experience of having a wife who was unfaithful to him. But he was able to forgive her, bring her back into his home, and stay married to her. Or, shall we say, try the experiment one more time to see if it would work. And so in the Hosea verse, God is using, or the prophet is using his experience with his wife as an allegory or a symbol of God's relationship with God's people, Israel. And God also would wish to espouse God's people and would expect that God's people remain loyal and faithful in that marriage relationship forever. And so, when Hosea says, I will espouse you with righteousness and justice, goodness and mercy, those four concepts that are included in our psalm, chesed, emunah, tzedek, and mishpat, goodness and kindness, firmness and steadfastness, righteousness and judgment, those four characteristics and qualities are repeated in Hosea's declaration. This is what God would want of us, of his people. God expects Israel to be faithful and righteous and just and loyal. Just as God is this way, God would want us to be this way. There is a term that was developed in Western religion known in Latin as imitatio Dei, the imitation of God, which is the human being's goal to try to imitate God in our lives, to imagine that God's qualities, which are all these fine and holy qualities, are the measures to which we ought to aspire. These are the standards that we need to try to follow in our lives. To be good and kind to one another, to be loyal and steadfast and reliable, dependable, to be righteous, and to be just and fair, and to follow the principles of good and sound judgment. When days are difficult, these are the times that try men's souls, as it is said. These are the times that test our ability to rise above the difficulties of our situation and to achieve and aspire to all these holy qualities that are described in the scripture. Thank you.